So I guess the
And
big question is, I think you wrote the piece on July 22nd, and has anything changed since you wrote the piece? We're now 2.5 weeks out, and has anything transpired either with the events or with Kamala that's made you change your mind, or maybe made you soften your stance a little bit?
Well, yeah. So what I would say is, I think she's doing better than I thought she would. I think that she is. She's doing. The fact that she's gained such momentum in such a short amount of time, I think I'm actually pleasantly surprised, and I say that as a compliment to our country, because, as I made clear in the piece, I think she has some issues as an individual candidate that make her a tough sell. But I also, I'm not naive enough to not acknowledge that there are also some people who just don't want to vote for a woman. There are some people who just don't want to vote for a Black or an Asian woman. And so I acknowledge that in the piece as well. So that's all to say that I think the momentum that she has gained in such a short amount of time has actually been a pleasant surprise to me. Now, what I will say is that some of the areas where she's gaining are not actually, as of the polling that was just released yesterday, it doesn't seem to indicate that it's enough for her to win the race, because the groups that she's gained with, and this is multiple polls that were literally just released within the last 24 hours, she's gained with college-educated white women in the suburbs, which are a hugely important demographic, as we know, particularly in certain swing states. And she has gained with Black voters, which is hugely important, because a lot of what my piece focused on is that her favorability ratings with Black voters were double digits behind Barack Obama. And a Black candidate cannot win a major race unless they're really sort of circling that 89, 90% mark with Black voters. And she was not. According to the polls released yesterday, she seems to have really closed that gap. Like, her support among Black voters has really jumped. And I would say that that's indicative of what I'm hearing anecdotally, because the family members of mine who couldn't stand her a month ago are like, listen, if it's her or Donald Trump, that ain't a tough choice, right? And they've said, I'm absolutely voting for her if that's the choice. So she's doing what she needs to do. I would also say, I'm going to get in so much trouble for saying this, but why not? I had a friend of mine who said the only way for her to win this race is to use the basement strategy, which is to talk as little as possible in any forum where she can get herself in trouble. And that's basically what she's been employing so far. I think that's part of the whole J.D. Vance trying to confront her on a tarmac, which backfired on him. And so it reminded me of that famous, for those of us who are political nerds, I'm assuming there are some watching your show, the famous moment when Hillary Clinton was debating Rick Blasio, who's actually a friend of mine. And he's nodding because he knows what I'm talking about. Someone gave him the brilliant idea to say, sign this that you're going to, I think it was release your taxes or something. It was something like that. And he walks over to her podium during the debate and waves it. And there were a lot of pundits who said that was the moment he lost the race, because it reminded women of your husband coming over with the credit card bill and being like, are you kidding me? It seemed condescending. It seemed invasive. And I think that's what J.D. Vance looked like on the tarmac. So if she can maybe keep doing what she's doing, there is a version of this where she wins and squeaks it out. I don't see there being a blowout on either side. And I think that kind of goes back to the heart of my piece, which is, I hate that this is going to be one of those that's a nail biter, because Donald Trump is such a terrible candidate that I think if the Dems had run someone better, it wouldn't be a close race. And this one's going to be, I think, a nail biter all the way to the end.